I'm Derek Joyce and I'm here with Paul O'Murda, and this is I'm Not the Expert, but this is a podcast where we talk about everything from South Park, which we know nothing about, to quantum physics, which we also know nothing about. So grab a cup of tea, sit back and join us. It's been a minute.
It has been a bit, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Life
Gets in the way and all that kind of crap.
It does indeed.
Yeah.
It's good to be back though.
It's good to be back. And it's looking out the curtains. A lovely day.
It's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
It's not to last though. Not to last.
Positive mental attitude. Now, it's not to last philosophically or weather forecast.
No, weather forecast, yeah. Okay. It's the piss rain all next week. But come here, listen, we can't be greedy. We've had some lovely weather.
No, I insist on grid when it comes to weather because summers in Ireland suck so bad.
Bring back CFCs.
You slow your roll. That's. I don't insist on that. Don't ever attempt that shit again, world.
Yeah. Holding the ozone layer is the least thing to worry about, given what we're about to discuss.
I read recently that the hole in the ozone layer had closed.
Yeah.
Which I thought happened ages ago.
Yeah. Oh, it's only now.
That's what I read.
Oh, okay.
That's what caught my attention about the article. Yeah. Because I was like, is that not an old problem? Did we sort that?
It's only fully repaired itself now. I thought it was a long time ago too, yeah.
Yeah, I remember it. It was a big thing, and I remember it was the whole CFC drive.
Fridges and aerosols and
cow's farts. But it wasn't it? Wasn't it cow's farts?
I don't know, was it?
It was methane, yeah.
Yeah, well, I know that's still a thing, isn't it? I mean, Eamon Ryan wanted to kill half the cows in Ireland or something, didn't he?
Who?
Eamon Ryan, the former leader of the Green Party. He talked about culling massive amounts of the herd.
Fucking, you know what? Solutions without any thought process
at all. Yeah, you know, for one of the biggest beef exporters in Europe.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Solutions with no thought to any knock-on effect. Or
yes and no. It's more being a one. I don't want to get into politics here at all, Del, but it's the whole kind of idea of just being a one policy party. That it's the planet over the economy, even on a micro scale like that, it's admirable, but it's utterly futile as well. Like,
I don't know. My whole thing about it was there was a solution in his head that presented itself that was very doable and within the realms of reality.
Yeah.
But no thought.
Given no thought to
what
the lives that will be affected.
Not even that. And it does, but what problems that solution creates.
Yeah.
It was like having a rat in your house. So you get a cat to kill the rat, and then the cat becomes a problem. So you get a dog to catch the cat that killed the rat. And it just on and on and on.
And the spider that wriggled and jiggled inside
it. There you go. Yeah. Wasn't that was a song or something? Yeah. That's only have to come true.
Anyway, we're not just shooting the breeze about the ozone layer.
No.
There is method to our madness. Moments when the world almost came to a crashing end.
Which is going to be our exciting and optimistic. Well, optimistic because we're still here.
We're still here.
Yeah. Optimistic subject.
So happy today. Christmas and a happy New Year. They said we'd go nuclear. We're still fucking here.
Have you turned into a poet since we last
it's recorded? A fucking Bows chant. They said we go bankrupt. We're still fucking here.
All right,
but it was an easy one to put in.
Okay. Fair enough. Ozone layer. It's more than 30 years from its discovery. Whatever happened to the ozone layer? ? This is on the BBC website.
Right. You're just Googling that now, are you?
Yeah, because I read the article and it didn't say that it had previously closed. Right. And I thought it had.
Yeah, I thought it had long since repaired itself,
Yeah.
Like the day after we stopped using CFCs, like.
No, it wasn't that naive. 1985, British confirmed a hole in the ozone layer. 1995, Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Sixth Antarctic winter nears its end. Ozone depletion extended over a vast region of 7.7 million kilometers.
Over
Square
the poles,
square
wasn't
kilometers.
it? Was that over the
Yeah,
pole?
yeah.
Yeah. Can you remember what CFC stood for that?
Chlorofluorocarbons.
Carbon fluoro. Or
Chlorofluorocarbon. Yeah.
Very
I'd just like to add that that's not anywhere in front of me. It's
Yeah,
something
you
I just remembered.
Yeah, it's very much, people of our age, it's part of our lexicon very much, isn't it?
Yeah. And in the 1980s, we would have all been nuts for our hairspray, and that was a massive contributor.
Big hair killed the ozone, yeah, Jesus.
Excuse my silence. I'm just trying to get the end of this. You know when they start an article, like they're going to give you the answer in the next paragraph.
Yeah, we have to go through 5 ads first.
Yeah, no, not ads. Someone was told, write a thing on the ozone layer and it has to be 10,000 words.
Yeah, so they just waffle for...
But don't tell us the solution to it or the ending of it until the very end.
Yeah. No, I hate those articles that, like, they have a headline and then they repeat the headline. And then you have an opening paragraph and then they repeat the headline again. Then there's an ad, and then there's another ad. And you finally get to the bit that's in the headline in the last line of the article. I just don't bother anymore.
I was in the US in the late 90s and I watched Star Trek, and I can't remember which iteration of Star Trek it was that I watched.
Tell me what happened and I'll probably tell you what one it was.
I can't remember what happened. It started and the ship and it shoots off into warp speed, and then
probably
it's flying over planets and orbits and all that kind of shit. And then the credits ended and there was a break. There were ads. And then it comes back.
That's American television.
And it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It was nuts.
That's American television. It drives me mad watching the football, or any of their sports, really. And they literally go to the studio. It's half time or the end of the quarter or whatever, yeah. And they'll go to the studio for the halftime show,
Yeah.
And they'll basically go, welcome to the Lexus halftime show. And then it's an ad. And then they'll come back and they'll talk for 30 seconds. And then it's an ad. Then they'll come back from the ad and then they'll say, join us for the second half. And then it's an ad. And then they're back into the second half.
Now, to be fair, lots of Australia does that as well.
Do they?
Yeah. And I've seen it. I was watching when Ireland went on the rugby tour of New Zealand, when we first bet New Zealand in a 3-game series. No. In a 3-game series in New Zealand.
More recently, yeah.
And it was ad, talk a bit, ad, talk a bit, ad, talk a bit, ad. So everyone does that. Now, and to answer your question on the ozone layer that you didn't ask, I can't find... They're not telling me.
So you're not going to answer the question that you didn't ask, okay.
They're not telling me if or not it's closed. But they're saying the ozone layer, how the ozone layer was tackled shows how quickly we can change our planet for the better.
Absolutely.
And although climate change is a bigger problem.
Yeah, but with the right legislation and the,
political will.
Yeah, the political will and what's the word I'm looking for? The right propaganda, I suppose, that is the way to do it. Because we were all anti-CFCs overnight in the 80s once they told us we were all going to burn,
Yeah, I don't see propaganda as a positive thing. So the right propaganda,
but you know what I mean.
The right advertisement, the right information. Yeah. Anyway, he says climate change is a bigger problem, to be fair, but that doesn't absolve politicians from the responsibility it takes to make the necessary decisions, or CFCs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
exactly. Yeah.
So I mean, it's just because there's one problem doesn't mean you ignore all the others.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
So right. So the ozone layer is not going to kill us anymore. So what is going to kill us, or what has nearly killed us?
Haven't a clue. What's going to kill us?
No. What has nearly? What's most likely, given what's happened in the past? Yes.
There's been 5 extinction level events in the history of the world, dating back to fucking 440 million years ago.
Right. Was that the dinosaurs? No, that wasn't the dinosaurs.
No, 65 million years ago was the one you were thinking about. That was the Cretaceous.
Yeah. See, there's a new Jurassic World coming out next month.
Yeah, can't wait.
Talk about flogging a dead raptor.
Can't wait.
It's being done to death now, though.
Can't wait.
You serious?
Yep.
Have you seen the trailer?
Yep.
You might as well have seen the whole fucking movie. It just shows everything.
Love them. The only one I didn't like was the second Jurassic Park.
Yeah, and the book is actually very good. Not the second one. The movie's terrible.
Can't wait to see.
I actually watched Jurassic Park last night.
Anyway, the late Ordovician 440 million years ago was an extinction level event. Then there was the late Devonian 374 million years ago. Then there was the Permian extinction 250 million years ago.
And what caused all this? Or do you have information on what caused all this?
Just from knowledge. Well, let me get through.
Right.
Permian was 250 million years ago, and then Jurassic was 200 million years ago. Yeah, and I see your expression, and I'll get to that in a second. And then the Cretaceous Paleogene was 66 million years ago.
That was the asteroid.
That killed the dinosaurs. So
allegedly the asteroid.
Allegedly.
Yeah, it's never been completely proven, has it?
Of course it fucking
has. It absolutely was definitely 100% the asteroid, wasn't it? I always thought there was some doubt about that.
No. Okay. There's some doubt, but it's in your head.
No, come here. All right.
So the Cretaceous was 66 million years ago.
Yeah.
And a lot of the dinosaurs that knocked about in the Cretaceous era were the dinosaurs that you'd see in Jurassic Park.
I always wondered why the hell it was called Jurassic Park and not Cretaceous Park.
Because Jurassic sounds better than Cretaceous.
It does.
And if you listen to me over the last 90 seconds, I've tripped less over Jurassic than I have over
all
Cretaceous.
The other ones. Yeah.
So that's why.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Crichton could always pick a good title anyway.
Yeah.
And
it zips and it zings and it's catchy.
The Andromeda Strain.
Yeah.
That's a great title.
That was a great film.
It is a great movie. It's a great book. I digress.
So they've been the 5 mass extinctions in Earth's history.
Yeah.
Evolutionary processes for more than 3.5 billion years have evolved to occupy every ecosystem on the planet.
Run that by me again. Sorry, that went completely over my head.
Evolutionary processes.
Yeah.
So from single cell organisms to complex cell.
Right, yeah. I'm sorry.
Have evolved over 3.5 billion years to occupy every ecosystem on the planet.
Okay, now I get you.
So land, sea, air.
Yeah, all has life.
Yeah. On the flip side of this, species extinctions have also been a part of that same evolutionary cycle. So a really
survival of the fittest,
basic, I'm not an expert, but way of putting it is these guys move aside and these guys move in.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what happens. That's the level of
natural
my expertise.
Selection.
Yeah.
Natural selection.
I'm reading a book on that as well. I'm reading a really good book.
Is it Darwin or?
No, it's his name is Sean something. He's a scientist, physicist. He talks about evolution and genetics and all that kind of thing. Yeah. And it's about how the evolutionary process has been jump-started by extinction level events and genetic mutations have worked really well for some things and not for other things. And the other things that didn't work for are not the ones that are kept purely because they all die off and the ones that work stay. Yeah. And he was talking about the association between woolly mammoths and elephants.
Right.
And even the hemoglobin in their blood and how that works in favor of mammoths, and elephants don't have it. And it's all down to climate.
Okay.
It's genetic mutations. I'm not expert enough to talk about it, but it's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's
No, I always remember reading actually, kind of something similar to that on a much smaller scale, on a much quicker scale. Like, sure the way you hear, evolution deniers, and they're like, prove it, show me,
Yeah.
Or the old age one, if we're descended from chimps, why they're still chimps, the usual one, right? Fucking idiots. But there's a species of moth or butterfly, I'm not sure what it is. It's originally from the Amazon the Amazon graveyard? The Amazon rainforest.
Jesus Christ.
It's a green butterfly, right?
Yeah.
But if you bring it to a city, right? And they've done it like, they brought these things to New York. Within 3 generations, it's grey. It's not green anymore, it's grey.
Is that the chlorophyll matching its surroundings?
It's
it's
basically, to blend in.
Yeah. So it protects
it's camouflage.
itself,
Yeah.
There's,
That's
and I'll
nuts,
get
isn't
back to this in a second, but I was watching a David Attenborough documentary, and there's a species of butterfly, and it's blue, and it travels from New Mexico in the US, down to South America, and it migrates. But when it starts out, and all these are hundreds of thousands of these things start flying, they pupate, they hatch, they become butterflies, they start this migration. They die before they get to there. And where they land, they spawn a new generation.
Yeah.
Which continues.
Yeah. It's like a generation shift in space.
They die before they get to where they're getting. And they spawn a new generation that gets to the final destination.
Yeah.
3 generations.
And then it starts all over again.
But 3 generations, and the middle generation didn't know where it came from and doesn't know
where
it's
going.
But it's just
instinct.
Yeah. It's brilliant. It's fucking class.
I think I've seen that. And just on the off chance that Sir David Attenborough is listening in, get well soon. We're all pulling for you.
Well, I'm not being cavalier about it or anything like that, but the dude is 99 and he's done more than his fair share for the world.
He has, absolutely.
Yeah, he's
brilliant. Go in power.
Well, no, I'm not doing that either. I'm not fucking burying him yet.
No. But
anyway.
He did announce the other day that
he wasn't well.
Well, he's coming to the end of his life, he said.
Yeah. So well,
I've heard that before and they bounced back, so who knows?
Yeah, well, I'm probably closer to the end of mine than I am to the beginning.
That's
so, fucking... Okay. Anyway,
that's kind of...
Sometimes the rate of extinction is greater than the rate of evolution, which makes sense.
So the birth rate drops below the... the
birth
rate drops below the death rate on a global scale.
Completely. Yeah. But and has happened, as we've spoken about loads of times, briefly at the start. Sometimes it's because a rock 6 miles wide, moving at 72,000 miles an hour, hits the earth, killing 75% of everything. And that was all the big creatures that couldn't get underground, fucked up.
And that's how mammals came to kind of,
That's why. That's exactly why, because those things that could burrow or lived in burrows and could eat roots.
Yeah.
Life still existed beneath the surface. It's just that the surface was a fucking firestorm.
Yeah. In a radiated wasteland. And then obviously the kind of cloud of ash.
Nuclear winter for...
For decades, if not
centuries. Hundreds of years, maybe millions, maybe
which
thousands.
Which would have killed off all the vegetation, which meant that, anything that kind of survived the initial impact.
Which was nearly nothing.
Pretty much starved then, because there was nothing.
Yeah, but I mean, the meteorite that hit the fucking surface of the earth and threw up this plume of debris into the atmosphere would also have sent massive shockwaves through the earth, which set off the Deccan traps. Wasn't that in India? The big lava field.
No.
And there was one I think there was one in Siberia. But anyway, the big lava fields and the big fucking calderas, not necessarily Yellowstone as we know it now, because that was very close to ground zero, but the one off Italy, the fucking Campi Flegrei, or any number of those super volcanoes.
You love your volcanoes now, don't you?
Yeah, big time. But they all would have fucking gone off as well. They would have ruptured everything. The meteorite started it. It probably wasn't the only thing.
No.
Everything would have fucking just gone ballistic.
Just threw the earth into a fucking...
Tizzy.
A tizzy. A catastrophic tizzy.
Yeah.
Yes, but anyway, we're here to talk about a lot more recent events, Dal, are we?
All that is mad interesting and you should go and look it up. But these are my 5 moments where the world nearly ended since 1945.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm going to pause it as well, because I'm going to talk about something later as well, that there is a 6th one that is arguably the closest we've ever come. And I'll get on to that one later, because I know you haven't got it on your list.
Well, what inspired me to do this was a documentary I was watching, and none of what I'm talking about was in that. So, I mean, there's lots
there's
of moments. Lots of moments where everything could have gone fucking tits up.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure quite a few people listening to this at the moment will have remembered the Cuban Missile Crisis. Now I know it's a little bit before our time, but I'm sure there are people, like I know my dad remembers it. Having to go under tables in school and do nuclear drills, and
tuck and roll.
Yeah, tuck and roll and put your hands over your head. That will save you from the nuclear holocaust.
Yeah, it's as ridiculous as giving you expired iodine tablets.
Iodine tablets in case they hit Sellafield. Yeah.
Explain that.
Oh, Lord. Actually, yeah, for anyone who's not from Ireland listening, basically when 9/11 happened and there was a fear that a similar attack could happen on any of the nuclear power stations in the UK, but most notably from an Irish perspective would be Sellafield, which is only about 26 miles from Dublin.
From the East Coast, yeah.
Across the sea in Wales. So the government issued us, every household in the country, with iodine tablets that were supposedly to protect us against radiation or whatever. Not only is the whole iodine tablet thing a fucking fallacy anyway, they were also completely out of fucking date.
They were out of date. I don't know about being a fallacy. I don't know enough about it. But they were out of date.
Yeah, look, iodine will protect you from very, very low radiation.
They were out of date by enough that had it been any foodstuff, my ma would have fucked it in.
That's really fucking out of date.
That's out of date.
Going by Irish mammies, Jesus, that's very out of date.
Anyway, let's start at the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Okay, cool.
Only lasted for 13 days.
Yeah.
16th to the 28th of October 1962.
Mm.
The US had deployed nuclear weapons in Italy and Turkey.
That's right.
That close to Russia.
Yeah.
And Russia went, fuck yous, and attempted to deploy nuclear missiles to Cuba.
Cuba,
yeah.
How did America find out?
I have it written down and I will get onto it.
I'll get into it.
Okay.
They were flying U-2 spy missions over Cuba, and basically Russia didn't even know they had the U-2 spy plane at the time. Like, it was so totally classified that, and that they didn't want the Russians to actually know they had this plane at all. So when they took the photographs, from fucking whatever,
72,000 feet
and more, yeah, from the edge of the atmosphere, basically, and they kind of identified, oh shit, there's fucking nuclear weapons there. Like, they couldn't immediately kind of go to Russia and say, here, hang on, we know you're putting fucking missiles in Cuba, because that would have revealed the existence of their spy planes, which at that time were flying over fucking Russia as well as Cuba.
Well, the reason they were flying over Cuba was the US had trade embargoed Cuba in the aftermath of the Cuban Revolution in 1959.
Yeah, where the communists came to power.
Hang on a minute. When US-backed dictator Batista was overthrown.
Sent packing.
Yeah, by Fidel
Miami.
Castro.
Yeah.
And they were like, that was our guy. Fuck you.
Yeah.
And they trade embargoed everything.
Yeah.
When he got in, Castro started nationalizing Cuban-based but US-owned properties. And the US went, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
So they started keeping tabs on them and looking at them. And Russia's response to them
was to initially send military aid.
Missiles.
Yeah.
So close.
And it was initially military aid, like there was Russian bases and stuff on Cuba long before the missiles were put in.
But as a result of putting missiles with a short flying time
90 miles from
Moscow,
Florida, yeah. Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
To Moscow.
Yeah.
Put them in Italy and Turkey.
Mm.
And they weren't, and I'm saying this with incredulity, they weren't expecting Russia to respond.
I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying there was good guy, bad guy here, but there were two bad guys here.
Yeah, no, it's very similar to what's happening in Ukraine right now. I mean, yeah, okay, Russia needs to get the fuck out of Ukraine and fucking mind its own business. But at the same time, NATO are putting fucking, a right up on Russia's border now where they were never supposed to fucking be.
Well, that was a verbal agreement after World War II.
Yeah.
They were...
And they've encroached on it.
They said, get this Berlin Wall down, and Russia said, we'll take it down. And this is like fucking the long and short of it. Yeah. We'll take this wall down after loads of negotiation shit. We'll take this wall down you agree not to move anywhere to the east.
Yeah.
And they said, yep, no problem. Wall came down. NATO moved 600 miles to the east.
Yeah.
And that's what.
And it's still kept, even now it's still encroaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah,
with US nukes in Europe, in Italy and Turkey, and Soviet nukes in Cuba, 2 weeks, nuclear war seemed like a very real thing. Every morning you woke up and every night you went to sleep. It was like, this could be the last day.
If you've ever watched, there's a fantastic movie, wonderful movie, called 13 Days, where it's Kevin Costner plays Kenny O'Donnell, which was kind of JFK's best mate and chief advisor. The guy that plays Captain Pike in the new Star Trek movies, he plays Kennedy. He's incredible in it. And then the guy that plays Bobby Kennedy is brilliant as well. I can't think of his name. But it's a total kind of political movie. Like, there's no action of any note in it. It's all the kind of ex-core meetings that they were having with the military and the plans they were putting in, how are we going to take out these nukes. I mean, the military, the Hawks were like, invade. We have to invade Cuba. This is, we have to go in, we have to take those nukes out. First of all, it was airstrikes, and then Kennedy was like, can you guarantee that you can take out 100% of those missiles in an airstrike? Because they only need one.
Yeah.
Can you guarantee you can get all those missiles?
But,
no, Mr. President, we can't.
Again,
we have to invade.
Playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
These conversations were being had in Moscow.
Oh, of course they were. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, 100%. I mean, Khrushchev was a bit of a nutcase too.
They're all nutcases. I'm not going to say one is more than the other.
Yeah, but but he was particularly he was a bit mentally ill. Like, he wasn't.
Anyway, one Soviet commander apparently attempted to launch a nuclear weapon after being cornered by US warships, but he was unable to because of one officer. It was a Soviet sub, and they were cornered by US warships. And on Soviet subs at that time, it took 3 to arm the missile.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and 2 of them concurred, and the third guy wouldn't do it, apparently.
Okay.
And that's the only reason that wasn't.
And the guy who wanted to launch it, was he the political officer by any chance? They always had a political officer on board, but that sounds like something.
And they always did have a political officer.
Yeah.
From what I know about political officers
KGB.
From political officers from movies like The Hunt for Red October. No, he wasn't the guy that refused.
Okay. So, he definitely wasn't the guy that refused. He was the guy that wanted to fucking launch it.
Yeah. 2 designated officers required agreement with the captain, and he wouldn't do it. One of them wouldn't do it.
Cool.
Which is brilliant. It all ended, and we're still here, so it ended because last-minute negotiations between President Kennedy and President Khrushchev prevented what could have been a very bad day for the world.
Yeah.
Like, they were moments from.
I mean, there was a lot of second guessing from both sides. Wrong. Like, fucking wrongly second guessing. Moscow were convinced that America, right? See, this was the thing. America never had a 4-strike policy, right? Or officially never had a 4-strike policy, right? Russia were absolutely convinced that they did, right? They were absolutely convinced that America would strike first, and vice versa, right? Russia never had a 4-strike policy, but America was always convinced that they did.
Yeah? Well,
that was, but it was actually Adlai Stevenson who, was that Adlai Stevenson? That's right. No.
Look it up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is Adlai Stevenson now.
Anyway, while you're looking it up, I'll tell you about the bear.
Right,
there was a bear military bases in Cuba, and there was an American on patrol, apparently, and he was on lookout at night, and he was going around to see and the fence was interfered with. There were something trying to come over the fence. What he thought were soldiers were trying to get into the base.
Right.
And he rang the alarm, and all the soldiers were roused, and they were all set out, and they were all ready for this attack. They were all going to defend it, and it went fucking nuts. And it turned out it was a bear.
Right.
The whole thing nearly kicked off because of the fucking bear.
Right. Anyway, Adlai Stevenson, I was right. The name was right. He was the real hero of the whole piece, to be honest with you. He was the US ambassador to the UN at the time, the Cuban Missile Crisis. He was a bit of a washed up kind of diplomat. He'd been given that post just to kind of put him out to pasture. The Kennedys didn't particularly trust him to do anything, but he was basically their last card that they had to play to avoid going with the Hawks, and going with the invasion. So basically what they did was they printed out the photographs from the U-2 spy plane. They eventually kind of, realised, hang on, we're going to have to fucking provide this evidence, whatever. So they printed out, fucking huge billboard size ones. Or not billboard, fucking flip chart size, A3, whatever, of these photographs. And Adlai Stevenson took them to the UN. And basically the fucking Soviet ambassador was still denying at this stage. Now, this is like, fucking 11 or 12 days into the crisis. And the fucking Soviet guy is still denying at the UN live on television that there's any missiles in Cuba, So Adlai Stevenson is like, fucking pushing him. Like, it's fucking brilliant speech. And I can't remember exactly the way he put it. He was like, answer my question. Because your man kept fucking deflecting, He's like, answer my question. I've got all fucking day. Answer my question. And then his time expired, and it was, fucking say the guy from Turkey was next up, and he goes, I defer my time to the delegate from the US, and the fucking Russian guy started to sweat, and Adlai Stevenson just pressure him. He's still denying that there's missiles in Cuba. The next thing he goes, now, and like 8 or 9 people around the auditorium stand up with these photographs. And it's like, do you still want to deny there's missiles in Cuba? Like, that was the end of it, really. It was then that the Russians kind of, as you know, Kennedy had gone for a blockade of Cuba rather than an invasion or an airstrike, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So basically there was missiles still being shipped to Cuba. There was none of them were actually active at this stage. The warheads were still being shipped from the Soviet Union.
That's not what I read.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
No.
Okay, what did you read?
I read that there were missiles.
Okay, have you read books on this subject?
No.
I have. There were missiles, yes. Missiles, no warheads. No nuclear warheads in Cuba. Okay, so there were tactical nuclear weapons on Cuba. Now, tactical are kind of battlefield weapons.
Is that or strategic? I don't know the difference.
I think tactical is what they use in the battlefield, and then strategic is to wipe out a fucking city 500 miles away.
Okay.
So there were tactical missiles. So had the invasion gone ahead, that the fucking Hawks wanted Kennedy to order US troops into Cuba, would have ended disastrously.
Yeah. And actually, we should have just fucking thought about it, because he said, can you guarantee me we'll hit 100% of them?
Yeah, that was airstrikes. And
he
said,
no, I know. But
and they basically said no. So the next option then was invasion, to go in and actually physically destroy the missiles on the ground.
Yeah, so there were, in one form or another, there were missiles there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There were missiles there, but the Minutemans or whatever, I can't think of the name of them.
Minuteman.
Yeah. They weren't ready to fire for whatever reason. There was still
better.
Ordnance being shipped in. And that's key to the whole thing, is the ordnance that was still being shipped. And they had days, like they literally had days before these missiles were fucking active and ready to go and hit Florida or whatever. So, time was absolutely critical for the Americans in that sense. Fucking, they wanted these missiles gone before they were a threat, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And, so you had, on one side, you had the Air Force calling for airstrikes. You had the military, I can't think of the fucking guy's name off the top of my head. He was a fucking prick.
Doesn't matter. He deserves oblivion, so.
Yeah, come here, listen, he was a fucking hero.
No.
He was the head of the fucking American Air Force during World War II. He led the bombing campaigns on Nazi Germany. But he was then, he was an actual fucking bomber pilot, bomber command.
Yeah.
He actually flew missions over Germany. But then he was promoted then up to like 4-star fucking general. He was the head, fucking Joint Chiefs of Staff, whatever the fuck you call them, yeah?
Okay.
He was the Air Force Joint Chief of Staff. And he was the guy insisting, we have to fucking airstrike. We gotta take these fucking missiles out. We gotta fucking hit the commie bastards, blah, blah. Total war hawk, And Kennedy was very reluctant for obvious reasons. And then you had the army guy, and he wants to, fucking ground troops, boots on the fucking ground. Let's go take fucking these missiles, and then we'll take Castro while we're at it, and we'll take fucking Cuba, Again, Kennedy was fucking really reluctant. And it was actually, I believe, Robert McNamara, who was the Secretary of Defense, who would later be disgraced by the fucking Pentagon Papers when they were released. But it was him who said, what about a blockade? Right, now bearing in mind, Kennedy was in a very weakened position at this stage over the whole Bay of Pigs thing.
Yeah.
Now, you know the Bay of Pigs?
Yeah.
Basically, the CIA and the mafia fucking conspired to invade Cuba without fucking Kennedy say so. And it all went fucking tits up and they were slaughtered and driven back into the fucking sea. They're like massively embarrassed the Kennedy administration. So he's already appearing to be weak on communism. So he's in this fucking corner and he's under serious pressure from his own people. And then McNamara comes up with this kind of compromise. What about a military blockade? We stop the ships arriving in Cuba. So you've got these fucking ships are 3 or 4 days out and they put in the blockade and they're waiting. And this is when the world is really on the brink. This is when people are glued to their telly fucking screens and they're waiting for the air raid sirens to go, and they're doing their roll and fucking tuck fucking drills in school and all. That was these few days where the ships were getting closer and closer to the blockade. Nobody knew what was going to happen when they reached that blockade, Now, obviously, the whole thing with the UN was going on in the background as well, yeah? And anyway, to cut a long story short, I suppose, when the four ships reached the blockade, they did turn back. There was one ship continued on, right? And they fired warning shots across its bow. And it continued on, fucking submarines were getting ready to fucking sink this thing. And a naval commander came up with the idea, hang on a minute, what if his radio's broken? What if he's not getting signals? So he started to use his light, to fucking Morse code flash the guy. And he got a reply back again. Fucking radio down, no contact with Moscow, blah, 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 blah. So they let that ship through and it did turn out that it was legitimately it was having radio trouble and hadn't got the order to turn around. That was how close the world came there.
Well,
pretty
okay.
Close.
It ended after 13 days. Right.
Yeah.
We know that. There were negotiations. There was UN. There was a blockade. We all know that. The Soviets, in the end, agreed for whatever reason, whether it was the blockade or whether it was negotiations between Khrushchev and Kennedy, agreed to withdraw from Cuba.
If they withdrew their not tridents.
Here's the thing. This is the bit. They agreed to withdraw from Cuba if the US withdrew its
Jupiter missiles from
Europe.
Yeah.
They took it out from Turkey, but the US said we'll only take it out if we can do it quietly so we don't lose face.
Yeah, and also as well, what you may not know is they were Jupiter missiles, which were pretty much obsolete at that stage anyway.
Yeah, but that's... Be that as it may, so we don't lose face.
Yeah, it was done
so,
there. Yeah.
Whatever history book we're both reading from, how much of it is 100% accurate? I would wager nothing.
Mm.
There's definitely, this is most likely what happened. I agree with that. But there are two sides to every story.
Oh, yeah, come here, listen.
And there's
in the West, we're always going to get the US
slanted three sides to every story.
Yeah.
There's his side, there's their side, and there's the truth.
Yeah,
and the truth was somewhere in between.
Yeah, but I mean, we can only go by what's the fucking published fucking knowledge on it or whatever. But actually, an interesting aside that what came out of the whole kind of negotiations and everything else was the red phone, the famous red phone in the White House.
Yeah.
The direct link to the Kremlin.
Yeah.
That came out of the Cuban Missile Crisis because there was a lot of fucking miscommunications going on as well. Khrushchev had sent a fucking message saying that he was prepared to fucking remove missiles. Then 2 hours later, there was another fucking message saying, ignore last message, that wasn't really Khrushchev. There was a lot of fucking shit going on. And, there was talk of an attempted coup in Moscow at the time as well.
There's always talk of coups.
I know, but that's, during this, there was, he had his hawks too, I suppose, who wanted to. So, yeah, it was, and it was all, a lot of the tension and how close we came was down to miscommunication or misreading what the other guy's intentions were.
Yep.
And that's where the whole kind of red phone came from then. It's a direct link. If we get into this fucking situation again, the fucking two top guys can talk directly.
Yeah.
So there's no fucking,
All right.
There we go.
Before that, on October the 5th, 1960, and this has nothing to do with the Cuban Missile Crisis, US Command Center NORAD received signals from its early warning radar in Thule in Greenland, Thule, in Greenland, that a massive Soviet nuclear attack on the US was underway with a 99.9% certainty.
Jesus.
The radar in Greenland was built to give the US time to respond to just such an attack. Even so, with a flight time to Russia of 30 minutes, verifying and double-checking an alert is very much against the clock because they have to assess the signal, they have to interpret the information, they have to verify the information, they have to get to the president, and by the time it gets to the president, he's got about 10 minutes to make a decision, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The US land-based missiles, up until at least 2015, were kept on hair trigger alert status.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
1 minute to midnight.
Those
stuff, yeah.
You know, those that steam or whatever is coming off the side of it.
That you see them in missing.
24/7, 365.
It's just turn the key and off it goes.
Basically. Press the button.
Yeah.
Lift the plastic flip up thing and press the button.
Press the button.
That's it. Yeah.
That is it. On the doomsday clock, it's known as 1 minute to midnight, isn't it? Or DEFCON 1.
No, it's DEFCON has nothing to do with the doomsday clock. DEFCON is the status.
Yeah, it's DEFCON military alert
432. Definite confirmation or something like that, or defense, something. But yeah, the doomsday clock is literally the analog clock that you're thinking of in your head. And midnight is where the hour hand is, and the minute hand is ticking ever closer.
Yeah.
And every time they look at the world and they go, okay, so what kind of volatility are we looking at these days, and who's doing what and what have they got? They move it back or they move it closer. And they're moving it ever closer.
Yeah. And they say the Cuban Missile Crisis was 1 minute to midnight. That's how close it came.
I think, if I remember correctly, and I didn't look up the doomsday clock, I think we're under a minute at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. If you Google it and see where's the doomsday clock at, I think it's under a minute.
Jesus Christ.
No, I'm not saying believe me. I'm saying Google it and see. I'd like to know.
Yeah,
or not know.
It's not under a minute.
Whatever.
They say the Cuban Missile Crisis was 1 minute to midnight. It's literally what it's called. Okay, where are we on the doomsday clock?
This 1960, the October 1960, wasn't it? It was 5th of October 1960 that we're talking about, and this is Thule in Greenland after notifying the US of a massive Soviet attack coming in. 99.9%.
We're 89 seconds from doomsday.
89 seconds. Okay, so we're
just over a minute. Yeah, it's just a minute and a half. Yeah. This represents the closest it has been to the theoretical point of annihilation since its creation in 1947.
There you go.
The Bulletin of Atomic Scientists cited nuclear risks, climate change, and the potential misuse of advanced technology like AI as the primary factor for this setting.
There you go. Learn something new every day.
Yeah.
Various different accounts of this thing, Thule, Greenland, give different stories of how this alert was handled at the time, from calmly checking the system and realising it was a false warning, to ones of considerably more tension, confusion, screams of panic, and fucking running around in a circle shouting, fire, 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 fire. Hit the button, hit the button. It was considered to be a false alert because Russian President Khrushchev was in New York for talks with President Kennedy that week.
They're going to nuke their own
and they
president.
Went, nah, it's not. It's definitely not. They're not going to nuke their own guy.
Bearing in mind what I just said in relation to the Cuban Missile Crisis and what we just said,
hadn't
there was
happened.
Always coups.
Hadn't happened yet.
I know, but as you said, there was always a fucking potential coup in Moscow.
But yeah, hadn't happened. Anyway, so he was over talking to President Kennedy and he went, let's triple check this, lads.
Yeah, the chances of them nuking their own president are pretty remote,
Exactly.
Unless
why would the Soviets launch an attack on the US with their president there?
A coup.
It could be. Eventually, the culprit of the false alert was determined to be, this made me...
Was it 99 red balloons, was it?
My fucking... This shit shivers up my spine.
Wasn't red balloons, was it?
No. Eventually, the culprit of the false alert was determined to be the rising moon, which had reflected radar waves back to the site until confusing the system.
Jesus Christ.
Paul whispered, Jesus Christ, and he's not wrong. Fucking hell.
We nearly blew
And the
ourselves up over the fucking moon.
full radar system was a new installation, I believe.
It was
So-
pretty buggy by the sound of it.
Yeah, it was. They hadn't done their snag
No,
list.
They hadn't.
Yeah. The tool radar system had detected a large signal coming from the location on the horizon. It would expect an attack to come and just went, that's
Yeah.
what it
Now,
is.
there's an interesting point actually on the early warning systems as well. In his first term in government, your man in the White House, like, do you remember the whole thing of I'm bringing our troops home? We don't need to have our troops all around the world. Blah 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 blah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He closed down bases in South Korea and took them home. Right, took the troops home. Do you know what their primary function in those bases was?
No.
Early warning of a fucking nuclear launch from North Korea. That would give America time to respond.
You know what? My advice, if there's a nuclear war, is run towards the flesh.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Get it over as quickly as possible. You don't want to fucking survive that.
Not even that. I don't want to survive in a world afterwards.
No.
Fucking sickness and
Yeah.
killing each other for food and no anything.
Yeah, I remember
don't-
doing a book in school, fucking primary school, we did it, or maybe first year. It was called Children of the Dust. I can't remember the author's name. It escapes me. Veronica something, I think.
Google it.
I'm not going to Google it.
I'm gonna Google
I'll
it.
throw
you
it up on
fucking-
Facebook. All right, Google it. But anyway, yeah, it was our novel for like first year, maybe sixth class. Not sure which it was, but it's about a nuclear attack on the UK, and then fucking kids kind of surviving in the aftermath, and there's mutated. But it's one of the best descriptions of a nuclear attack I've ever come across in any popular fiction at all.
It's a
Um,
TV series I've got here.
was it a TV series?
Uh,
Must go find that. But the novel's incredible novel. Now it does go a little bit kind of silly in the middle. There's like mutated fucking half-human creatures and shit. Kind of gets a bit silly. It's a young
you're
adult
calling
novel.
it silly. You've got no frame of reference, so it might.
Yeah, I know. It's a young adult novel, so it's kind of, a bit pulpy. But the opening chapters where it's a child running home from school when the air raid sirens go and they're trying to get home to their homes, and just it's so well written and so well depicted. Like the tension is incredible in it.
Louise Lawrence.
Louise Lawrence, that's who it was. Yeah. Yes, highly recommended. As I said, it is a young adult book, but it's highly recommended.
After a nuclear war devastates Earth, a small band of people struggles for survival in a new world where children are born with strange mutations.
Yeah.
It's not unheard of.
No, it's not, but they're kind of.
But yeah, you have to sensationalize the mutations.
Yeah,
you know?
there's like a new race kind of emerges that are very much like, what's those yolks in the fucking time machine? The Morgulls, or whatever they were called.
Do you remember
It's
that?
kind of like that, and it gets very
Well,
silly.
You've no idea what's going to happen.
No, true
and none
enough,
of us
yeah.
do. So, yeah.
I know, but it turns into like a zombie book, kind of. But they're not zombies, they're Morgulls, or whatever you want to call them. But the opening chapters, that was just incredible. And as well, the other one, what was the UK, the fucking kind of 2-hour TV fucking special they made?
I have no idea what you're talking about now.
It's about nuclear fucking war in Sheffield. It's actually been remade as we speak. Let me just Google that.
Okay.
It's one of the most fucking terrifying things I've ever watched. I only watched it recently. Yeah, the fucking TV thing was Treads.
Never seen it.
It's fantastic. I only watched it recently now. It was made in the 80s. Your man from ID is in it. What's his name? Reese. Fucking he's in Coronation Street. Oh, it's fucking the most terrifying thing I've ever
The
watched
opening
in my life.
few minutes, I mean, the whole lot was great. I enjoyed it. But the opening few minutes from the series Fallout,
I haven't actually haven't watched it.
Give it a
Just
look.
get on it, yeah.
I'm not going to tell you anything else about it
Oh.
then, but everybody out there listening to this, who's seen it knows what I mean. It's
Deadly.
it's amazing.
I must watch it, yeah.
It's excellent.
No, Threads was terrifying. It's utterly terrifying.
And there was an 80s movie as well called, I think it's called The Day After.
Yeah.
It's about a nuclear attack. That's very good.
That's
and
a good movie,
you'll find that on YouTube. I think it's in 3 parts. You can watch it.
I actually read the book it's based on called Trinity's Child.
Yeah, it's very
Fantastic. Anyway, I
Saturday, I digest.
Oh, actually, hang on, before we move on, of all of those movies and shit that we just mentioned, I would absolutely urge anyone to watch 13 Days. Fantastic movie.
Yeah.
And we'll move on.
It is. Saturday, February 20th, 1971. A civilian called Wayland S. Eberhardt. Wayland, I was like, yeah, fucking deadly name. And I was thinking about Aliens. Wayland.
Oh, Wayland Yutani
Industries, yeah. Anyway, a civilian called Wayland S. Eberhardt, a teletype operator, was going about his duties in the National Emergency Warning Center at Cheyenne Mountain, Colorado.
Yeah.
One of the functions of the Cheyenne Mountain was to send a weekly emergency broadcast system check that everything was working well to a series of radio stations that were designated, like, if everything goes pear-shaped, you guys will remain on air and you will be the ones that disseminate what comes from government.
Yeah.
You know, the
emergency fucking messaging.
Emergency broadcast systems.
Yeah.
And it was his job to send out this weekly burst.
Every week.
Weekly bursts are every week.
Weekly bursts are every week.
This weekly burst.
Sorry.
You're grand.
On a weekly basis.
This weekly burst on a 7-day basis. Because it was the fucking Cold War and all that bullshit.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Right? Okay. Every week they'd send out this burst, and it was a test to make sure everything was working. Had they ever need to send out a legitimate emergency burst, okay?
Right.
Here's the thing. I'm going to paint a picture for you. He's sitting at his radio operation system, right? He's got his earphones
deep inside
on,
a mountain in Cheyenne,
Every week he sends this burst out to these selected radio broadcast stations. And based on the message he sends, they corroborate it with a letter that with a code word on it that they've received.
Right.
And they'll look at his broadcast and they'll look at this and they'll say, yep, they're the same. It's legitimate. It's legitimately, this is a safety test, or it's legitimately,
this is the real thing.
Uh-oh. Right? Okay. Everything is operational, so they send this thing. His job was to send out this burst, real or fake, and it would then be authenticated at the radio stations. And then everything went on as per normal. On this morning, Eberhardt stuck the wrong tape into the transmitter and sent it.
The live one.
I'm going to read you the real message that he sent.
Oh, this is the actual message?
I found...
Okay, so it's not just a burst, it's an actual...
I found the message that was sent.
Like text, like, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a coded burst.
That was initially what I thought too, but apparently not. The message that he sent was message authenticator, hatefulness /hatefulness. This is the shit's about to hit the fan, lads.
Yeah, so that is the message that should have been.
So, yeah.
Should only be sent when it's real, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is an emergency action notification, EAN, directed by the President. Normal broadcasting will cease immediately. All stations will broadcast EAN message, one preceded by the attention signal per FCC rules. Only stations holding NDEA may stay on air in accord with their state EBS plan, broadcasting EAN message 1. That's what they received, right? So they would have authenticated that, froze or fucking, I'd have frozen.
Turn off the music.
And would have gone, what the fuck? And went nuts, right?
So what happened?
Everyone listening to the message got that sound that stops everything in their tracks, that stops everyone, and got their attention. then broadcast that message, right?
Mm.
WWCM radio in Indiana was taken off the air for 22 minutes as per FCC rules. So they went black.
Yeah.
And anybody listening to that went black. That was it. And just
dead air.
No, just repeated this thing that would have been sent out. Like they were freeing the band waves for this message that was being sent.
Yes.
A news reporter at WEVA radio in Virginia said he thought he was going to have a heart attack opening the sealed envelope with the authenticator details inside. I'm laughing at this just because it's my reaction to the abject fear that I'd feel. One listener in Chicago said how terrified they were and said, it was so authentic. It's supposed to be. It was so authentic. I knew we were at war. Decades after. So what would have happened? They scrambled because the wrong message had been sent.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a case of picking up the phone or sending another one and going, whoops, lads, sorry.
Yeah.
There's a process to be go through. Because if you send out, whoops, sorry, here's the one I meant to send, that has to be authenticated. And if it's not authenticated, it's not an authentic message.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we're still on the edge of our fucking seats here.
Right.
Decades later, a DJ, Bob Savers, of WOWO AM radio, said it was the longest 5 minutes in radio. After 40 minutes of frantic scrambling at Cheyenne because they couldn't find the fucking right message to send.
Jesus Christ.
The right message to send after the wrong message had been sent. I mean, there's a protocol, right? They couldn't find the right message to send out. Kill messages that didn't contain the correct code that they would authenticate at their end and say, okay, calm down, lads, go and have a coffee.
Yeah.
Everything's okay. So they couldn't find the proper message to send. So they spent 40 minutes looking for that. And then the correct code was found to transmit.
So that's where Homer Simpson worked before the fucking Springfield nuclear power station, yeah?
That's where his fucking dad worked. The easy fix to this error, inverted commas, I'm doing air quotes, was to separate the tapes. Don't stop me here, because this is painting your picture.
Right.
The easy fix to this error was to separate the tapes, which hung side by side above the transmitter on a rope suspended across.
Right.
So the legitimate one to send sat right beside the test.
Fucking
and he just reached up and grabbed him. And he might have been busy, and I'm sure it wasn't his fucking fault, but he sent it. So both of them are hanging there right above the point where you're supposed to send them. Not very clearly indicated. Easily mixable.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking ridiculous.
Paint one of them green and one of them red. Like.
Yeah, absolutely. Or stick a fucking Tipex note on it saying, do not send. Or something real. Don't fucking send unless shit has hit the fan. The two that were the real McCoy were later placed inside an envelope and put in a cabinet off to the side.
Wow.
The test tape was left where it was above the radio transmitter.
Makes sense.
Isn't that fucking insane?
It's insane that, they had to fuck it up for them to actually think of that. Like,
nobody came in on a quality test just to test are the hinges squeaky or the fucking door handle's not working and said, that's a bit of a problem, lads. They just
You're going to send the wrong tape, dude.
That'll never happen. No point in fixing it.
Oh, Lord.
Isn't that fucking crazy?
It is, and it also gives you that kind of sense of just how far technologically we've come, even since the 70s now. Like, you wouldn't be using physical media now to send that message.
No.
At all.
No, but, how many times have you sent an email to the wrong person?
Oh, fucking...
Fuck.
Oh,
so
God, yeah.
Shit still happens,
Yeah. I have this really bad habit of sending a message or a Facebook quote or a WhatsApp and then proofreading it.
Yeah, that is a bad habit.
It is. It's a terrible habit. Now, edit is there, which is good, but email, once it's gone, you're fucked.
Here's fucking WhatsApp. and we all use WhatsApp.
Mm.
Why do they have a delete for me option? Have you ever tried to delete?
It's probably just keeping your fucking screen clear, so keeping messages that you want to be able to see or whatever.
Yeah, but
if you if you're in a big long thread of fucking messages for a lot of people,
but you can't
things can get lost very quickly.
Yeah, you can. But
do you have the option to delete for me or delete for everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why would you fucking delete for me, but not for everyone? Let everybody.
It just clears up your screen.
Yeah. No, I think it's a stupid option. Stupid option. I'm after sending the worst text in the world, but I'll delete it for me.
So I don't have to look at it anymore.
Grand. Yeah. And there's nothing to worry about.
And the other thing with that is, if you accidentally hit delete for me instead of delete for everyone, you can't go back in and then delete it for everyone.
No.
It's gone.
That's it. Yeah, you're done.
I've had that happen before too, yeah.
September 26, 1983. Soviet operator at the Serpukhov 15 bunker south of Moscow identified on his screen that a US Minuteman nuclear missile had been launched towards the Soviet Union, towards Russia. Soon after, one had been launched, 4 more were launched.
Oh, I know this one, yeah.
Tensions, which were already sky high because earlier that month, the Soviets had shot down Korean airline flight near Sakhalin Islands, killing all 269 on board, including a US congressman, Larry McDonald.
Yeah.
So now there's 4 incoming
blips on the radar.
There's 5 blips on the radar. Minuteman nuclear missiles. The protocol was for bunker commander Stanislav Petrov to inform his superiors so they could retaliate. The Soviet policy was to launch an all-out retaliatory strike.
Empty their silos. The whole lot back at them,
Knowing this, Petrov declined to notify Moscow of the incoming missiles, and he would have sweated.
Oh, he'd have been fucking executed.
Well, these blips got closer, whether he was right or wrong to do it, and every moment he delayed was a moment they didn't have to retaliate.
Yeah.
He said when interviewed by the BBC in 2013, "All I had to do was pick up the phone, but I couldn't move. I felt like I was sitting on a hot frying pan." He must have fucking double questioned himself, you know what I mean? And then triple double questioned himself.
Lucky that he had, a fucking thinking person there.
Yeah, big time. The system he was monitoring at the station was relatively new and he didn't trust it.
Right.
It's like the fucking Greenland station for the Americans.
All over again,
yeah. He'd been trained to see hundreds of nukes coming from the US.
Yeah.
So 5 made no sense to him.
Right.
23 minutes later, he realised nothing had happened and he'd been right to make his call.
Yeah.
23
minutes
fucking
of
minutes.
Hell for that man. Yeah, absolutely. But come here, like you said, that was in September 83, yeah? 1983. Yeah, I mean, tensions were absolutely on a knife edge at that time. As you said, that Korean flight was shot down.
Yeah.
Also, at that time, Operation Able Archer.
Yeah.
Was a major NATO. It's an annual or biannual major NATO exercise or whatever. But it was taking place right in the middle of that. After that plane had been shot down, what that guy witnessed on his radar screen, it's all around, all happening at the same time. And then NATO goes ahead and does Able Archer. The Soviets were absolutely convinced that it wasn't an exercise this time, that they were going to use Able Archer as the cover.
For a retaliation.
For an actual, and for the first strike.
Yeah.
And they were ready to... they had their silos on, as you were saying, with the steam coming out of fucking missiles. They were
with
ready.
the fucking fuel lines in and the steam spilling out, or the hydrogen probably, and
and they were ready to fucking go. And
T-minus.
I'm not. I can't actually remember how the whole fucking situation was defused. I think it was, if memory serves, it was a KGB spy, or possibly a Stasi, who was actually spying on Able Archer.
Yeah. And
he was able to kind of fucking get the message back to Moscow. No, this is not real. It's just an exercise. They're not going to attack or whatever. But it was like, we're talking seconds, minutes here from from the Soviets launching a full scale fucking preemptive strike. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, on this system that he didn't trust, which was relatively new, it turned out to be the satellite detecting the sun reflecting off high altitude clouds in the atmosphere.
Jesus, the radar was shit, wasn't it?
And confusing the system. Radars were shit. Yeah.
Are they still shit?
I hope not.
You'd have to wonder. And yet they were so effective in World War II. It's fucking bizarre.
And you know what? That's the fucking moon.
It was only invented.
That's the moon's fault.
Yeah, and now the sun.
Greenland. And now the sun. The fucking sun and moon never do anything for anybody.
They nearly fucking destroyed the world twice. Get rid of them. Shut them down.
There was one... Anyway, I'll finish this. Stanislav Petrov died on May 19th, 2017, aged 79, in a suburb outside Moscow. He never ever considered himself a hero.
It's an interesting one.
It's fair play to him.
Fair play to him. Like, I mean, obviously, he fucking saved the world or whatever, but did he do it? Like, was it just fear? Was he just paralysed by fear? Was it, fucking we let our country be destroyed and we won't fucking retaliate and the war won't end? Or was it just a case of, I don't trust this?
It was his training.
Yeah.
It was his training because he was trained to see hundreds of nuclear weapons coming over. And he saw one and then four.
Yeah,
but one on its own.
But that's probably a flaw in his fucking training.
It's not a flaw in his training.
America could have fucking decided to have
it's not a flaw if he was right.
Yeah, he was right, but what I'm saying is America could very easily have decided to fucking launch a limited fucking attack, you know?
No, I don't agree.
It was definitely a strategy that they...
I don't agree because we're going to launch one missile, limited attack, and we're going to hit this Moscow, say.
Yeah.
And everywhere else in Russia that you've got your nuclear weapons stationed and every other territory you control where you have nuclear weapons, you just launch them back.
Do you though? Because what I'm saying to you is, right, if you do that, if you empty your silos, America gets fucking 40 minutes warning and they can just empty theirs then. Like, there was definitely a strategy on the table to...
I see mutual destruction.
It's like you shot down that Korean plane. Okay, we're going to nuke one of your fucking military bases. You know what I mean? That was a strategy that they always had on the table. Like, it was never ever all or nothing with nukes. You know what I mean? There was.
Oh, I know that. I know that. But basically, the bottom line is nuclear weapons are a mutually assured
mutually assured destruction. Mad, yes. Yeah. No, I get that, but there was always, like, even during the Cuban Missile thing, and that was the argument some of the hawks were making. A limited strike, you know?
No, I'm sorry.
Hit Moscow, you know. And
there's a thing I was reading as well about when they did the nuclear tests down on the atolls, the Bikini atolls, down in the South
Pacific
Atlantic.
No, South Pacific. Yeah.
Had the wind been blown in the opposite direction, it would have irradiated the coast.
Yeah.
For thousands of years.
Yeah.
10,000 years.
They didn't care.
Fucking nuts. It's not they didn't care.
They
didn't know. There was let's blow this up and see what happens. We don't know what's happening. Fucking the nuclear test in White Sands. If they knew the potential of that thing, they wouldn't have fucking detonated it there.
Well, I mean, I disagree with you on that in the sense that they didn't know that it wasn't going to set the atmosphere on fire. Like, that was one theory of a possible thing that could happen, and they went ahead and did it anyway.
Yeah, well, it's the thing is, will this do this? Well, there's only one way to find out.
Yeah. It's exactly what what Oppenheimer said when he realised that he had cracked it, that he had solved it. He's like, shit, I give them this weapon, they're going to use it because it's what they do.
Yeah.
They will use it.
Well, you know, and I'm not saying give to them anyway, because why not? Someone else is going to do.
Yeah,
but
I think by that stage he didn't have any.
Somebody else was going to. They were all going down that track.
Yeah,
it was just who was ahead.
Yeah, and that somebody else would have been Hitler. So I mean, fucking give it to them, you know.
If the World War II had gone on much longer, he'd gotten the bomb.
Yeah, definitely.
100%. 100% hypothetically. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and then Klaus Fuchs was the guy that gave Russia the bomb for that exact reason that we've just spoken of, mutually assured destruction. He didn't want a world where only one superpower had that fucking power because they'd used it.
Yeah, well, I can see that thought process as well.
Yeah. He was a spy inside the Manhattan Project.
If only one has that power, then I think that's more dangerous for everybody.
Yeah. And that's why Klaus Fuchs, he was a spy inside the Manhattan Project. He was given the...
I also read about, but I didn't add in this, there was a test in Finland where they launched, because Finland borders
Russia,
yeah. And there was a test in Finland. They launched, I think it was atmospheric, or it was a weather test or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, it was a very benign thing, but they launched a missile. Alarm bells went off in Moscow because they thought it was an attack. And it was just a bunch of scientists trying to research them. So, yeah, everybody's on tenterhooks.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, all through the Cold War. And I mean, like, even now, I mean, there's still fucking tensions.
Yeah.
It's it's kind of ramped back a little bit in recent years, but, the fucking potential is still there.
It's always there. Yeah.
I mean, look at fucking India and Pakistan there recently.
Right,
fucking thankfully that didn't escalate into something bigger. You know?
I hope there's always someone with the sense to stand up and go on every side in every country to go, listen, lads, this fucking ridiculous. If we press that button, it's over. And I hope there's somebody with enough weight behind their voice to be heard. You know what I mean? To just go, cut yourself down, for fuck's sake.
But at the end of the day, if the order comes from the White House or the Kremlin, you don't really have the option to say no, you know?
Yeah, but it's not just the US and Russia that we have to worry about.
No, but you know what I mean? That's, what we're talking about here is the Cold War.
Yep.
But, I understand what you mean. No, there's too many countries now have the fucking things.
That's it. South Africa got rid of theirs a long time ago.
Didn't know they had them. Jesus.
They did, but they got rid of them. And you didn't know they had them because it's that far ago that they got rid of them.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, they were like, we want no part of this whatsoever, which I think is fucking great. Like, it'd be great if more people would do it. People being countries. What else? That's it. So that's your lot.
That's your lot
on a very upbeat note.
Yeah.
It's still sunny outside.
I just hope that sun doesn't reflect off somebody's fucking radar somewhere.
No. Reflect off the clouds that then get confused.
Picked up by the radar, because that'll just ruin
high
their
altitude.
eyes.
So the sun was at fault, the moon was at fault, or high altitude clouds were.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
And fuck your chemtrails.
No,
listen, I hope you're having a good day wherever you are, and I hope it continues to be a good day for a long time.
And tomorrow, and
the day after tomorrow.
That's that movie.
It is.
Yeah.
May the world not end in your lifetime.
Yep.
See you next time if we're all still here.
Just give me 1 second before we go out. From 1960 to the 1990s, South Africa pursued research into nuclear weapons of mass destruction, including nuclear, biological, chemical, under the apartheid government. South Africa's nuclear weapons doctrine was assigned. When did they get rid of them? So it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
That they got rid of them.
Well.
They were like, we don't fucking want them.
Fair. Oh, shit.
That's Paul wrecking his fucking microphone.
Pulling out my earphones.
Or, yeah. So, there you go.
I could be pulling out something worse.
March 24th, 1993, South Africa disarmed itself nuclear-wise, which is great.
Are they the only country to actually...
I think so.
Kind of count themselves out? What's the word I'm looking for?
Disarm.
Disarm, yes.
Disarm themselves. President de Klerk announced South Africa's parliament on the 24th of March 1993 the existence and abandonment of the former nuclear weapons program. In August 1993, the IAEA confirmed the complete dismantlement of the nuclear weapons program.
Cool.
There you
go. It's interesting though, isn't it, that the only country to ever use a nuclear weapon is the one who tells the rest of the world who can have them and who can't.
Yeah, but we're getting back into politics.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there. It's just an interesting point.
Okay. Very upbeat podcast this week, people.
Yeah. So,
enjoy.
Tuck and roll. And
There you go.
get under the table, lads.
Has anybody got any out-of-date iodine tablets? See you next time.
Slán, lad.